that say, unless all the billionaires who own the NBA teams collectively decide to create more teams, you're not allowed to compete against the billionaires. Right? It's a fantastic bet to place your money somewhere that's the opposite of computer land, which is hyper competitive.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
All right, what's up? Not really an opening statement guy, but I will open with this statement. I'm fired up to be here.
This is Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith.
Could you repeat that first part?
Take a knee.
Absolutely glorious.
Lend an ear.
I believe it's going to be for the best.
Then get ready to laugh, listen, and learn.
How about you announce that you're getting better?
No matter your team, your favorite sport.
Bowling. Bowling's insane. Bowling is crazy time.
We cover it all here on Church Pew Sports.
And we want to pump you up.
Gentlemen, start your engines, brothers.
And our engines have been started here for the last few days as we have been gearing up for this edition of Church Pew Sports. It is so good to have you all with us as we dive into the world of sports and faith and life and try to connect all the dots. We're live streaming on our Facebook and YouTube channels for Church Pew Sports. Looking forward to a lively discussion. And if you happen to be watching us on either of those video live streams, know that the chat function is available to you, and we'd love to read your chat comments as we move through this time ahead. Bill Hobson here, along with Pastor Paul Miller. David Collins is expected to join us in just a couple of moments as we dive into, I think, a fascinating subject that has really, I don't know, Paul, very little, if nothing, to do with the start of football season. It's more of a summer dead period conversation, and since we're all relatively sick and tired of NFL preseason, I think this kind of fits into that gap pretty well, because the overarching question we will get to after the headlines is, how much government involvement do you want in the world of sports? You kind of came up with this one. What was your motivation?
Well, I think it was our friend Mr. David Collins who talked about how Fox News was doing a thing about Trump being the sports president. And we just started talking via text, and I'm like, yeah, here's all the places where I think I'm okay with the government being involved in sports, and here's all the places where it drives me nuts and everything else. So it's just like a conversation just waiting to be had. It's really not so much a political conversation. It's more just about when and how do we want people messing with our glorious world of sports fandom that we don't want to ever have messed with, right? Because it's so important to all of us. That's kind of how I'm viewing this discussion.
I like that. And as you said that, David chimed in, so he's with us for the conversation. And we'll get to all that in here in just a couple of moments. But first, some headlines of the week. And David, I think we have to start with, unless something has changed in the last 11 minutes since I had the game on, your Tigers are collapsing, David Collins. What's going on?
Yeah, I just wanted to first say I'm doing this podcast in protest. So we're gonna make sure we send the tape to the league office because
the commissioner.
Anyways, no, I mean I'm not worried about the Tigers. They weren't going to win this year anyways, so whatever. I haven't watched a game in 2 or 3 days, which is a lot.
Wait a minute. You usually yell at me for scheduling a podcast recording when the Tigers are playing, and now you don't care?
Well, no, you usually schedule it during when important games are being played. I think there's a distinction here. I mean, game 83 in a regular season of baseball, I can have on the TV while we do this. I just use it as an excuse when I don't want to do the podcast.
Oh, so you're making it up. Now we're getting somewhere, Paul.
So he's kind of viewing this episode as like Big Ten Media Days. It's like this necessary evil that you have to participate in because you're a member of the organization, right?
You're in the text chat. Bill he badgers you into it, and I can't. I mean, eventually, I just have to give in. So this is what's happening.
Well, I didn't want to pull out this card out of my back pocket, David, but let's not forget that last month, in the month of July, Church Pew Sports generated 8 cents in revenue. So this is also a paid gig. I'm saving yours for an annual disbursement at the Christmas party and you just haven't seen it yet. But it's, hey, where have you heard this before? There's a Christmas blessing coming.
A little Christmas blessing. Here we go.
Okay, so I have 2 non-sports questions that maybe will release a little bit of the tension. Here's my first question for you guys. Here's my first non-sports question of the week. It is, where do you stand? It's a government question, though. Where do you stand on the bill that's in Congress right now to eliminate daylight savings time and just go to one standard time all year long? None of the confusion and weirdness and setting your clocks ahead and back and all that other stuff. What say you?
I'm thumbs up on that. During the summer, if we default to the version that gives us the longest sunlight. Now, it's funny because in the golf industry, most of the golf course owners are against this because of the shifts during the season. I'm tired of changing times and being dreadfully tired on the day where I lose the hour. So let's just set it and forget it, please.
Yeah, I'm fairly in agreement with that. I mean, I don't understand. We're not doing farming the way we used to, which is, I guess, why we did it in the first place. At this point, why not just pick the time in the middle and let's all live with it?
There you go. Okay, I'm just like warming up the room here a little bit. Here's my second non-sports question of the week. I saw a headline that the University of Michigan, and I don't think this is unique to the University of Michigan, but that the University of Michigan is in their liberal arts college or whatever, giving pass-fail grades to freshmen to protect their mental health from the stresses and the strains of the academic rigors at a school like Michigan. First of all, is this true? And if it is, what do you guys think? And like I said, I don't think this is just a Michigan thing, but that's the headline that I saw.
David, you want to go first?
I mean, I don't know if it's true because this is the first time I'm hearing of it. But
starts next
I mean,
semester.
I don't know. Pass fail would have been nice when I was in college. So I guess I don't want to take it away from people that got it, because if you know how to use it, then go ahead and work the system. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd have to look into how it actually affects people or whatnot. I know mental health is a hot button topic, and a lot of the things that you guys want to talk about tonight are hot button topics. And let me just say that the views expressed by everybody on this podcast are their own views. Let us not lump anybody in with anybody else for what they're saying. We are our own people with our own views and thoughts on things. I just don't want to be.
I've never seen David this nervous. In fact, the most
I don't want
nervous
to get pass fail based on what you say, Bill.
most nervous I've ever seen a guest on the program until now.
Not
was
nerves. It's not nerves.
When
It's not
Gilmore
nerves.
said, I can't go on the record as an attorney in the state of Nevada.
Bill, is pass fail a thing in Michigan?
It is happening. It's happening this semester for freshmen, and I have a 3-word response to it: pathetic. These are the leaders. This is the leaders and best. This is the Harvard of the Midwest. This is my alma mater, where if you got a C- in French, you just studied harder to get a better grade next semester in French, which was my situation, because I don't know what these people are saying to me in French. The teacher kept calling on some guy named Guillaume, and she's staring at me, and I'm looking behind me like, who is this moron that she's talking to? And you know what? I would have gotten the fail if there was a pass fail, but I kind of liked seeing the letter grade because it motivated me to either study harder or just transfer to Flint. And this whole thing is an embarrassment at the university. This is the same school, my alma mater. I love their football program. I love their basketball program. This is the same school that in 2016, because many students did not like the outcome of a national election, they opened up coloring book rooms and brought in puppies to pet. These are now, 10 years later, the people in the workforce.
Bill's against puppies. Good to know.
I'm anti-puppy. And I'm anti-coloring book all the way through. So yeah, Paul, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, headlines. Another headline. The Dodgers. The sale of the Dodgers for, was it supposed to be like a big, like 12 billion or something weird like that, is now sort of up in the air. There's scandal involved in how all this money is connected to the team. And I don't pretend to be able to teach a doctoral level class on what's happening, but it's weird. And somebody's got some splaining to do.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this situation is that when you're giving ownership up to somebody for a team, the idea is that they're going to hang on to that for a period of time, for there to be growth, like economically within the team, so that there's continuity. They're not supposed to be rentals, but the fact that you can buy a team and then a year later sell it and make whatever, a couple $1 billion profits and then walk away, like that's not, I don't think that's what the system was designed for. But again, in just about everything in sports, whatever the system was designed for is getting completely pushed to the brink, to the point where it's going to break. So they've got to figure out a way to at least establish that if we're selling teams, like there needs to be a specific like tenure before you can sell teams, unless obviously there's a situation where racism or misogyny or something's involved in a huge way, then you have to obviously chop that off early. But this is like billionaires jumping in, buying, selling it. It's like it's
like flipping franchises.
Yeah, it's wild. And so I think they're going to have to, the reason this is such a big issue is they're going to have to find a way to put a stop to it. But billionaires also aren't used to being told no. So here we go.
Well, and there's this weird connection in here to the conversation we'll have a little bit later on as our primary theme tonight, because in the case of the Dodgers, for instance, the owner, Mark Walter, who's, he's a billionaire in the insurance game, I do believe. And in his world, the economics 101 level that I understand this at is his claims to wealth are based on all of the monthly premium fees that are paid into his insurance company. And he was just taking those fees and using them to buy a team with, instead of keeping the money there for those who would have big insurance claims. And apparently there are some famous people and some non-famous people who have policies, and there's no backing behind those policies because he took all the money and put it into the Dodgers. And now I guess the shell game is kind of coming around to bite him, and he's almost in a fire sale mode to get the money back to keep himself from going into an orange jumpsuit, which the Dodgers do not have as their team uniform. And I don't think he wants to end up maybe behind bars. So you talk about a strange confluence. The Lakers sale is on hold right now, the Dodgers sale. And meanwhile, there are some conversations asking the question of whether or not the players with the highest value contracts will be paid.
Yeah. I was going to ask, I don't follow it that closely, but the Dodgers are the ones that were throwing out the stupid money for Ohtani, right?
But the thing with the Dodgers and the way they paid Ohtani is they're deferring all their money down the road, which is crazy, because like Ohtani's making almost $1 million a year, like league minimum or something. Obviously makes a ton in endorsements in Japan and all that, but all the rest of his money is going to be 30, 40 years down the road is when he's going to get it. So that throws a wrench into the whole thing too, because this guy's buying and selling the team for quick profits to sell to, hide some issues he has with his own business. And yet these guys got to get paid down the road. We don't know what TV deals are. We don't know what the sport's going to look like when that happens.
Do you think it's going to stop players from signing those backloaded contracts?
They're guaranteed. So, I don't know how.
I don't know how what's that worth though, if the thing goes belly up, right?
That's what's weird about the whole situation. And then obviously you're sitting on the verge of a work stoppage where you're going to have to redefine how the money's distributed anyway. So I don't know, but I guess that's part of why they want to defer the money, because they're thinking on the back end of it, they're going to wind up making more.
And how about the irony of a potential work stoppage sort of being tied into, or maybe even caused by, the Lakers overspending and shaming the rest of the league who can't afford this kind of thing. And if it turns out that overspending was based on a shell game where the money's not actually there and it shuts down a sport, I mean, this thing goes into a 7-part Netflix series with all sorts of investigations, and then Department of Justice, and then all the other things that, again, we're going to talk about here in the moments ahead. One more current events item, headlines of the week. Enes Kanter Freedom goes to a WNBA game, wears a shirt. I just saw it, but I cannot remember the direct message on the T-shirt to quote.
It was like a definition of a woman. It was like,
yes.
Woman colon female or something like that. Something
very similar. And one of the players on the court began screaming at him, and he was jawing back at her, so he got ejected from the game. He then later on said, all I was doing was trying to defend women. Are we, as sports fans and as faith sports fans, supposed to pay attention to what Enes Kanter Freedom is up to, what he's doing for the publicity and to to kind of make his point?
Go ahead, Paul.
No. I think there's probably a less offensive way and a less abrasive way for him to stand up for what he believes. And I'm not telling him to compromise what he believes. I would never say that, but I would say, man, pick a better path. Pick a way that's not. He's like, any publicity is good publicity. That's what he's banking on. He knows he's just stirring up trouble in this thing. So I wish he would find a better way. That's all.
He went into the game with a clear agenda to make a scene, to promote whatever he was trying to do. It's egregious and it was offensive. And the reality is, what he was doing was an attempt to cause divisiveness. He went into, quote unquote, in his words, enemy territory in order to try to rile people up, and it riled them up. When is divisiveness, when is purposefully trying to flaunt your views in order to push and harm somebody else the way you're supposed to handle something like this? It's absurd what he did. Enes Kanter Freedom has been a complete and utter joke, a clown show for a while now. And it culminated last night. And it just, how is going somewhere to offend people a good way to express your viewpoint? And some people will stand and go, yeah, well, he believes what he believes and he should stand up for it. That's okay. Stand up for what you believe. I don't care. Like, do that. But it's like, to go somewhere to purposefully antagonize people, to purposefully like cause division amongst people, and to purposely cause people who are already dealing with feeling like they can't be themselves and express themselves or live in this world the way that they are, and to go in there and tell them all they're wrong and here's what it really means. It's like, what are you doing? It's embarrassing and it's stupid. And I wish we didn't have to even talk about it. Like, I wish we didn't have to talk about any of this stuff. But it's like, it's there. And he makes it such a point that everybody's it's the talking point on every show now. What did we do about this? What did we do about that? And then everyone's super strong opinions come out. And it doesn't matter what you say. You didn't say it strong enough one side or the other. The whole thing's a joke. It's a mess. He's ridiculous. And I thought it was really, really shameful what he did.
Hypothetical, and I'm asking this. I don't know what transpired in this game from a verbal standpoint that would have led to him being tossed out, and I have not lost any sleep over him being ejected. I'm kind of wondering though, is it enough to wear a shirt to get ejected? Now he probably, most likely, he shouted some things back and forth.
He almost walked on the court. He got all the way up to the baseline and was like talking with the player. Like, yeah, he went way too far. But I don't even know why you'd wear that shirt. You're wearing the shirt in that environment for the reaction. That's all you're doing. So you're not there to like try to have a dialogue. Like he went there with a purpose, and the purpose happened. And that's what's stupid about the whole thing.
Well, and here's the other thing it's just sad about it, I guess is the word that I would use, is you may or may not agree with what he believes. But that gets lost in the drama, in the chaos. That's not the headline anymore. The headline now is, look what happened to look at the vitriol that's coming in both directions and everything else. And so like the actual conversation that could be happening is gone. That's what happens in the media. And so that's the part that makes it sad.
Yeah. I don't think we're done with it. I don't think we're done seeing more of it. And, at some point, is there a tryout coming? I don't really know, but
yeah, he and someone else said they were going to try out for the WNBA just to prove some kind of stupid point. Like, dude, just leave it alone. Like, you're so obsessed with this thing that no one's asking you about because no one cares what you think. You're just going out there throwing your opinion around at people. Like, just stop. It's so frustrating.
Okay. So there's some headlines. Oh, I missed one. Live Golf has played its last event. Paul and David, how will you cope in the days ahead without Live Golf?
That's still happening?
It just ended yesterday.
Oh, good for it.
It's officially done.
As the players have said, Live Golf 1.0 is no more. We can't wait to see what comes next. So yes, it's done.
Okay, so I feel like that is an episode that we should schedule, Bill, to have the conversation. I saw the quote from Jim Nance where he was like, I can't think of any other pro sports league, any other professional sport that is so hinges so much on their integrity. And I thought that was a really interesting comment about like the ethos around the sport of golf. And I think there's a whole conversation to be had about that. I'm not the guy to offer any opinions, but I'll ask a lot of questions. I think we should talk about that.
I'm going to bring a Live golfer onto this program. Yes, we're going to do that at some point.
Okay.
All right. So our main topic tonight is the separation of sports and state. How much government involvement do you want in sports? And I never thought that I would lead us into this conversation with the soundbite that I'm going to play. It's about a minute and a half long, so just bear with me. But it comes from, and I want to make this perfectly clear, I did not do this interview. It comes from Bill Simmons' podcast, and he had a guest on by the name of Derek Thompson, and they were talking about the tendencies of professional sports leagues to be different from really any other kind of business on the planet. So, for instance, I'm in the middle of Michigan, and if for some odd reason I decided I wanted to build a golf course, I could do that at my own risk. There's not a conglomerate of courses that would say, oh, no, we are protected. You don't get to do that. Or if I wanted to open a pizzeria, I could do that because goodness knows we need 48 more pizzerias. But if David Collins came into the $6 billion he would need to start an NBA franchise in the west side of Michigan, he can't do it because it's a closed shop. And we start to think about some of these things when it comes to stadium funding, when it comes to tax incentives, when it comes to the Hammond Bears versus the Arlington Heights Bears and the Chicago Bears. And we'll get deep into this, but I want to start us off with this soundbite and get the reaction from the two of you to the words of Derek Thompson.
There's a huge difference between everything you can invest in software and sports teams. Software is competitive. Software has national competition, OpenAI versus Anthropic versus Google versus Microsoft. It also has international competition. All the American companies, some of whom make what are called closed models, are competing against these Chinese AI firms that make open weight models that are often much cheaper. And therefore, you have a lot of price competition in a field like artificial intelligence, where Josh Kushner is super invested. He's thinking, how do I balance this portfolio? Where do I go to look for an industry that's the opposite of software, that's not competitive, that has artificial scarcity, where the law literally says you're not allowed to make the next proverbial AI company. It's against the law to compete against all the AI companies that exist. You can't make the 37th. That's sports. Sports has artificial scarcity. Sports has rules that say, unless all the billionaires who own the NBA teams collectively decide to create more teams, you're not allowed to compete against the billionaires. Right? It's a fantastic bet to place your money somewhere that's the opposite of computer land, which is hyper competitive.
Right.
You want to put your money in sports, which is a closed system of zero competition from the outside market. And so it's hard for me to imagine a world where sports remains as central to that withering phenomenon of the American mainstream. Like monoculture is absolutely fading away. Like what is left? There's football, there's Taylor Swift, and there's like a movie that Christopher Nolan makes every few years. Like that's what's left of the fraying monoculture. And so the ability to get purchase in a piece of that monoculture that again cannot be grown without the express permission of all the people who are already owners in it, that's a really, really fantastic business. And Josh Kushner knows what he's doing. And I think that's why he has been, for a while, so desperate to get into sports.
So we talked about that a little bit in our headlines, how all of these things connect together. So the closed monoculture. What you guys? What's your reaction to that soundbite?
I mean, I think he nails it. I mean, that's the reason that everybody wants a sports team, because there are 32 people in the world own NFL teams, and no one else is allowed to own an NFL team other than the 32 people, unless they decide a 33rd and a 34th can join. So I mean,
Unless those 32 decide. Yeah,
exactly. But this is what's funny about it is within that monoculture, you now have things like college sports. College football is expanding the playoffs. They're bringing more teams into it. They're doing all these. They're taking away the scarcity, which is the thing that really drives what makes these things so valuable. So with sports, yeah, the other problem with it is that the billionaires they decide what can and can't happen, what players do and do get punished, what players get blackballed. If we're going to have the conversation about politics and sports, the Colin Kaepernick situation, there are literal emails with owners saying, let's not give this guy a chance. So because the economy is entirely based around 30 people, it's not that hard to find consensus. Whereas if it was, open to everybody to have a vote on the situation, then it would change a lot of what was and wasn't going to be allowed. So this whole monoculture, it creates value, because not only is it a sought after thing, but it's so limited. The demand is so high and the supply is so limited. But at the same time, if you're in the club, you get to make all the rules. And that's why you can say all these things, and you can have how many of these owners that didn't have to give up their teams were really close if people had just found out about these internal emails and things like that. It's crazy, but they invent their own rules within their own monocultures, and then the values keep going up. And then these commissioners keep getting paid absurd amounts of money just to make the value keep going up. And the only person that keeps losing is the consumer. But that doesn't matter, because as long as the price keeps going up, I don't care what the consumer says. This thing I bought at, $940 million in 2004 is now worth $8.6 billion. I don't care if you hate me. I don't care what you think. I don't care. I'm going to sell the team when I feel like selling it, or I'm going to do something stupid and be real racist and get it taken from me and still make all that money. So it's it's crazy how it's they're so in control of it, but it's so valuable because of how limited it is.
Yeah. So I got to ask you this question, David, because I think we might answer it different. Maybe we would answer it differently. I don't know. When I heard that part of the conversations tonight was going to be around billionaire sports owners and flipping sports franchises for profit and all that stuff, and the closed system and everything else, I started thinking about I started asking, does that really bother me? I don't know how many names I could list of pro sports franchise owners. I don't know who they are. I kind of honestly don't care who they are. And there's this part of me as a sports fan that doesn't care if they're making all this money, as long as they're turning around and investing that money back into the team, into my team, in a way that's going to help my team do better, win more, that kind of thing, right? Does it bother you when you hear about the closed system and everything else? Because you probably on principle say something's junked up there and not working right, but I'm kind of just being a realist and saying, man, I don't really care. I just want my team to win.
If you go to the movies, do you care about what the actors believe? Do you care what religion they are? Do you care? No, you want to go to be entertained. And that's the point of the whole thing, is it's an entertainment industry. But the reality, so for me, I don't have any stake in whether the Lions win a Super Bowl. I don't have any stake in the Tigers going through what they're going through right now, other than I've chosen to care because I like sports and it connects me with my friends and family. That's why I care. Philosophically, do I think about it? Do I have an issue? Sure. Do I think that there should be such a thing as too much money? Yes. There's too much. Some people have too much money. I think we can all agree on that. So, I mean, I have my ethical concerns about it, but it doesn't affect my fandom day to day necessarily. But then here's the flip side of that coin. That ownership goes and gets you. Let's just say your team needs a quarterback and there's one there who's been really good, but he has 26 plus accounts of potential rape or, some other, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And they bring that person in. Like, so where does the moral outrage begin? Because the owner, the billionaire owner, he okayed it, and that's your owner of your team. And so does that make you dislike the owner and distrust the team? Or do you say, well, as long as we don't have a guy like, we have Jared Goff in Detroit, great guy. If it was Deshaun Watson, would I still root for the Lions? I don't know. That's a tough question I'd have to answer when that happened. I'm glad it hasn't happened, so I don't have to answer it. But it's like the issue with sports and with a lot of things is there's selective morality, and that's reality. So whatever you can handle is what you're going to be okay with. But you can philosophically break it down. You can ethically break it down. And I have issues with a lot of that. But at the same time, this is capitalist America, and this is what we all love, right? Like, so you just have to say, hey, tip your cap and go, this is the way it's supposed to be, I guess, because the rich people keep finding ways to screw us over.
Well, and Paul, in kind of response to what you said to David, there is an intersection at which we do care about these things because while, hey, I love my Lions and I've been wanting the Ford family to sell them for my entire life. And I'm finally glad that Sheila's over there and good things are happening. And I'm not a fan of Chris Ilitch in the least. But if they were winning, we'd be huge fans of Chris Ilitch and all that. I understand that. However, in the intersection between sports and state and the addressing how much government involvement do you want in sports, these same profiteering billionaires, and I don't say that, by the way, from a derogatory standpoint. This is a capitalism. This is how it works. If I had a sports team, I would kind of want to make money.
Right.
But these same people, including those who have a football team in Chicago, are holding their communities and their local and state governments kind of hostage, I guess, and saying, oh, no, we need you to build the stadium for us. We want the money for that. Well, I don't know how many people have stopped to think about this, but in reality, the municipalities and the states, they don't really generate a lot of profit. All the money they have comes from confiscatory tax policies on the people and the businesses around there. So what the billionaires are saying is, I need a new playhouse for my boys, and I would like you to pay for it, even though you're already working 3 jobs to buy a jersey and a ticket to a game, and you're begging your wife for permission to go to the Christmas game against the Packers. So we have all of this layered stuff in here that's almost impossible to separate because in some cases, those same billionaire owners are the ones lobbying those who are writing the antitrust laws and getting deeper and deeper protection. And suddenly you're at the Super Bowl and you look around and you see 15 senators. You're like, well, that's weird. I didn't even know. Oh, or you're at a Steelers game like I was about 10 years ago in Pittsburgh. And because I was there to work with the rescue mission, and I went on StubHub and bought a single ticket to the game, and I had to wait through the long security lines. And I look over to my right, and here comes, because his wife's name was on the stadium of Heinz Stadium, here comes John Kerry. And he's walking, of course, past the line because he has his own entrance, which I totally understand. And I started to think to myself, man, these things are interwoven. And so part of, I think, our discussion tonight is, what is your level of comfort with your entertainment dollars and your emotional investment being connected in many ways to the public trust?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear anything you said after you said confiscatory.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was very nice pull. I was shocked that you got that out, like enunciated well, as like that. That was surprising.
I got to get an applause track in here.
Yeah, that was very nice. I think the reality is, though, like what you're saying extends to everything. I mean, do you have an iPhone? Because you're conceding some level of ethical or moral standing by, this is the computer I'm using right now is an Apple. It's like I have issues with billionaires and what it's like, but you're still somewhat going to have to engage with it on some capacity, or else you're going to have to choose your level of how involved or engaged in society you want to be. So what you're talking about is like, the players, the coaches, like these are all human beings. They all have their own issues. You saw the Terry and Arnold thing, and you see the stuff. Jed York, who does he own? Was it 49ers owner just got arrested for potential prostitution, things like that. It's like, so are you just not going to be a 49ers fan now because of that? I just, it's really difficult because if you want in the smallest bit to enjoy it or be a part of it, you have to welcome something behind the curtains that is relatively large that you don't like or agree with. And that goes with just about everything in life. So this is all really a personal perspective issue. Are you going to take some kind of moral stand? And if you are you going to be consistent with that moral stand? The issue most people have is they're not consistent with their moral stands. They're okay with it when it's their team or when it's this guy or that, but when it's something else. And that's where we get into the conversation that we were going to have, where it's essentially with politics and sports. People are okay with politics and sports as long as it's their politics. That's the issue that we're dealing with. The entire issue is it's fine if it's my guy or my people that are getting the say so. And that's where the whole issue comes in. That's the entire concept of it. It's what are you willing to take, and are you willing to be consistent with it? Because people will not be. They pick and choose. If Trump goes to FIFA and wants to get Balogun unsuspended, people are like, yeah, but those very same people are the shut up and dribble crowd. Those very same people booed Kaepernick, even though he had been kneeling for weeks and no one noticed until the media decided to pop into it. And then it was an outrage. It's like, you didn't even notice until you did. And then when you did, you were like, what? This thing's happened? It's like this, the people that are applauding the one and hating the other, it's not consistent. It's frustrating. It's hypocrisy. And that's the issue that we have with this whole system.
Paul, it brings to mind a question that I would like to present to you as a Bears fan. And I know you don't live in Chicago, you're not in Illinois anymore, but as you could take either side, as David's saying, you could take either side of the situation that's unfolding in Bears land. One would be absolutely right. We're not going to give in to this, and we're not going to stand up for this. And we're not going to, if they have to go, they're going to go. And the other side would be do whatever it takes to keep them here, even though whatever it takes could theoretically flow back to have a direct impact on the residents of that area. Right. So it depends on what side of this entire equation you're on, how you interpret the actions of the governor and the mayor and all of the commissioners that are involved in all of this. So what's that tightrope look like for Bears fans?
Yeah, I think I'm just a really shallow person because to me, there's two different issues going on. There's the financial one, and then there's the, like, can I still root for or consume a goods or services provided by someone who I wouldn't go to ask for moral advice in my life, right? Like they're two different issues for me. Like I was mad at YouTube TV and ESPN when they couldn't get their stuff together, and I thought that was going to be a huge inconvenience for me. I was going to have to sign up for ESPN. I was mad when the NFL Sunday Ticket got more expensive, and it's like these little inconveniences that are all about my whether or not my life's going to feel easier or better. So like my answer to the Bears thing is, you know what? I know where Hammond, Indiana is, and I don't really care if the Bears move there. I actually think that might be a better fan experience if they did. So, okay, fine. That is what it is. If I still lived in Chicago, I might have a different opinion. Or if I grew up in the shadow of Soldier Field, like my dad, if he was still alive, might have a different opinion or a different answer about that, because he was diehard Bears fan at Soldier Field whenever he had the chance, that kind of thing. But it really comes back to my experience as a fan and my rooting interest, like you said, David. That feels shallow to me on the one hand. The place where it's more difficult or more troubling is like the bigger question of, can you smile when Trump has a UFC fight at the White House? because I'm a UFC fan. And does that mean that I have to embrace and endorse everything that Trump says or does if I'm okay with that, right? It's like package deal ethics and everything else. And I think where it becomes really challenging for us as Jesus followers is when we run the risk of assuming that because someone's a really good businessman, or because they're a really good sports owner, or because they're a really good actor, or because they're a really good athlete, or whatever it might be, that I should listen to them in areas other than the place where they have expertise, you know? Like I remember when Charles Barkley said, "I'm not a role model," and I was kind of like, "Yeah, you're not, man. Look at how you live," you know, and that kind of thing. But so often, we want to conflate those things, and we want to say, well, we want to feel really good when our team shows a moral compass or has a spine or aligns, like when Ohio State has revival going on at their campus and it's led by the football players. Like I can line up behind that and go, yeah, check out my team. Like Jesus is there, you know, that kind of stuff. And so that's where it gets so confusing and so hard and so dangerous because someone's a really good, like I said, a really good business leader or a politician with a lot of power or a popular actor or a really good basketball player, that I start listening to their opinions about other things that I shouldn't be listening to.
So as we take the conversation another layer into all this, we talk about college sports quite a bit on this program. And we have talked a few times about, do we want Congress to get involved in trying to fix this mess? And in fact, the collegiate leadership has said, Congress, please bail us out. And I myself have said, oh, that's not going to be a good fix because it doesn't seem like they get a whole lot of things right. Do we want that level of involvement? Do we want further meddling and regulation of our fun time? I mean, this is life's toy box. We're talking about sports. But do we really want it to get to that level where on the chamber floor of the House and the Senate, they're actually dealing with legislation that would prohibit an NFL player from suing to go back to college in this upside down world?
Yeah.
Is that what we want?
No, I mean, why would you want the governmental regulation in your sports? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like the issue is, again, it all comes back to there's just so much money involved that what are people owed? Who owes who what? Like, are these college players, like, are they owed an extra year? Are they owed money from years because they didn't get NIL when they were there? And, Jaden Daniels, that whole thing with like, hey, I'm owed you guys like retiring my jersey. It's like it's all such a mess that why would we want to add another layer of, hey, let's bring the government in because, hey, the government, usually when they're jumping in and solving things, it works, right? No, like it's just going to cause more problems because it's more layers. It's more lawyers that come in. It's more people talking. It's more, I don't know how to regulate it, but the reality is it's been unfair for years. And now that it's completely unregulated, like let's let all the cracks show through. Let's just let it happen and let's figure it out from there. People want to put a lid on it and say, yeah, but I like it better when it was back then. Sure, sports were better in the late 90s and early 2000s. They were just better. That's fine. It doesn't mean I'm not saying the players were better. I'm just saying like it was you didn't think about anything other than the sport on your TV. But now the curtain's pulled back. Like you can't everything is out in the open. Every time, for instance, I brought up Deshaun Watson earlier. If that was your right tackle, does that bother you? Like, but it was your quarterback. So it's like, that's the face of the franchise. That bothers me. Right. And like you were talking about, Paul, earlier, it's like, we root for like a guy who, kneels and prays in the end zone or something because we're Christians. And it's like, hey, this is like, we don't know that person. We don't actually know like what their faith is. And even if we did, does that mean that like, as a sports fan, that should make us root for them harder? Or all of these things are totally up in the air. So yeah, let's add Congress to that.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. I think I want Congress involved on as long as it makes the sport better. And to David's point, the likelihood of that happening is pretty minimal, right? So if the NCAA had shown a track record for being fully capable of running their business, then I wouldn't need or want Congress to be involved, right? But can't even make that statement without eliciting laughter, right? So there's that.
Think about the NCAA wanting help from Congress. NCAA, for whatever lawsuits they are, wants Congress's help. Like, that's how desperate they are. This is hilarious.
And I'll tell you where I don't want it government involved is when there's obviously bias. Like you hear about these judges that are laying down injunctions or restraining orders and everything else, and you go, oh yeah, he's like an LSU alumni, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's why he told that guy he could go back to LSU. That bothers me.
Disaster.
Right. Or like if something, here's the exception. Like patriotism. Like I was okay with Trump doing the whole, hey, I'm going to put my thumb on the scale to get Balogun to be allowed to play. And you may say, hey man, that's completely, you're so inconsistent and everything else. For some reason, if it's like, yes, go USA, then I'm okay with it. On some level, in some weird way, I'm okay with it. That's kind of messed up. It's a little bit messed up. It's kind of like when we're watching the Olympics and I see some athlete that like went to Texas A&M and learned how to run track and then went back to their home country and took the gold medal away from some US athlete because they got really good training at Texas A&M. There's this part of me that's just like, pass a law that makes that illegal. Right. I don't know why I'm like that, but I am. I'm just revealing how shallow I really am.
Got a quick a chat that's come in from Kip Rogers. First rule of reality and sanity. Life is not fair. It will never be fair. What is happening in college sports is an utter disaster. People trying to make it fair because I'm not trying to add on to her words, but it is true that we seem to live in this feelings-based world of everything's got to be fair all the way through.
And there's the added part to exactly what she said. Think about sports. When a guy gets injured, when the cornerback on the other team gets injured and they bring in a backup, what do? You go right at the backup cornerback. It's not fair. That guy's he's not as good as sports aren't. The entire concept of sports is supposed to be meritocracy. Who does it better? Who earns it? Who works harder? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But when you take one step away from just doing that on the field, now everything needs to be legislated and fairness needs to be equality and handled and this, that, and the other thing. It's just not realistic. It's not realistic. So either enjoy the mess. Like Paul, you keep calling it shallow. It's not shallow. It's sports. You're enjoying it at the level you want to enjoy it. That's not shallow. You have other things in life. You have other things in life you care a lot about, that you pour a lot of information into or a lot of time into and know a ton about. You're not going to do that about everything. Guess what? Sometimes you turn on sports and maybe you know a little more than the next guy, but who cares? Like, you're doing it because it's what you like. That's not shallow. You're choosing to give your energy and time to other things in your life that matter. This is supposed to be a little bit of an escape for you. And so conversations like this for you are a lot more just fun and easygoing because it's like, it doesn't have any real stakes to your fandom, which is great. And you're consistent with it, which was my point earlier. Be consistent with it. Don't be like that now. And then the second something happens that offends you, you're like, well, I can like it this way, but he should like it a different way. That's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah. So let me throw a question out that has a kind of a new direction to it, and then we'll wrap up our talk about the role of government in sports. But throughout my entire lifetime, whoever the president is has always welcomed in the championship team for whatever. I mean, they always give the president a jersey with like number 1 on it, and for all sports. It branched out more recently into like many different college sports. It used to just kind of be World Series and Super Bowl and NBA champions, that kind of thing. And invariably, every athlete on the team would go. I don't think anybody was just dumb enough to think that every athlete on the team was a big supporter of that president. I can't imagine anybody was naive enough to think, Well, because Alan Trammell is there along with Lou Whitaker, they must both be huge fans of Ronald Reagan. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but nobody even cared.
Right.
And then somewhere in the last, I would say 15-ish years, you began to see some pushback on all of that. And it was no longer this honor that you would just accept and go and spend time in a pretty cool place. I mean, whether or not you care about politics, you get invited to the White House, you go, you shake a hand, you take a picture, and you're out of there. And I don't think anybody's going to ascribe to you fandom for whoever's in the office. That changed. And I could offer up my own theories as to when it changed and all of that. And it's gotten even more drawn out these days where teams entirely will just boycott or the invitation won't be extended at all by the occupant of the White House for fear of being rejected, I think is probably the bad look that it would be. So my question for both of you is visits at the White House. Is this a tradition that has run its course?
You want me to go in on that one?
That's why we have you on the show.
Well, I would say that even like I said, the curtain's been pulled back on everything. For many, many years, whether you agreed or disagreed with whoever the president was, there was a dignity to the office. There was a dignity to the way that that person conducted themselves. And as you said, Bill, maybe 15 years ago, something changed. I'm not going to go ahead and say exactly what that is, but I think you all know what I'm pointing to. There is no more dignity in that position. There's just not. The dignity has been removed from that position because of the behavior and the character of the person that happens to be currently in that spot. And that person, being a gigantic baby, has decided to use the White House visits and everything else as political tools. We'll invite certain teams that I feel like agree with me. I won't invite certain teams that I feel like will disagree with me. And the entire thing has become a farce, and it's become a plaything to gain or like to move political points one way or the other. There used to be dignity there. There's not anymore. And I'm sorry if you love that guy. If you can honestly look at that and feel like, yeah, that's a dignified human being, I don't really have much to say to you.
Well, Paul, does the tradition continue, or is it re-strengthened in a future administration? Does somebody bring it back, or does it not matter to anybody anymore?
Yeah, I think to David's point, I think it could be brought back, like dignity could be brought back to the office, right? That's possible. And so has the tradition run its course? I think it's always going to be the days of 100% participation and being able to lay our politics aside for a moment and celebrate the win or whatever. Those days seem to be gone. I don't know if they're ever coming back. Tim Keller calls it package deal ethics, where if you give any kind of endorsement to anything that one side, one ethical system or political party or whatever says, then people will immediately accuse you of embracing and endorsing everything that political party stands for. And so his term for that is, I don't know if it's original with him, but he's the one that I heard say it. He's like, you just got to guard against package deal ethics. Like if I'm a professional athlete and we win the Super Bowl or whatever, and I get an invite to the White House, I hope I would be mature enough to not sit there and go, well, people are going to think that I voted for this guy or whatever. No, hopefully people will just think that I'm going to the White House because we won the Super Bowl. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Right? Well, or if you're the U.S. men's hockey team, you just have members of that administration in your locker room drinking and partying with you after you win games, because that's a good look somehow, I suppose.
Bring the party to you instead of going to the party. Well, I will say this.
I do also, like, Bill, to your point, I do think at some point too, there is a novelty of it that's worn off. Like when I was a kid and you went on a plane, meeting the pilot and getting pilot's wings was a huge deal. Now it's, if the pilot tries to talk to me, it's like, bro, I got my headphones on for a reason. Listen to a podcast. Just fly the plane, buddy. It's like, like sometimes things wear off as well.
You still get the wings though, right?
Oh, absolutely. Every time.
I mean, you got to get the wings.
Good. So here's my last question, Bill, on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Does it bug you more if a public figure like the president or whomever is unashamedly a fan of one team and expresses that fandom publicly, or are you like, hey man, he's the president or whatever, he should be unbiased and rooting for everyone? Where do you land on that one?
They're fans. Let them be fans.
Absolutely want him to be a hardcore fan for whichever team he wants to be. What does drive me nuts is when they pretend to be a fan of everybody, because they're not. They can't be unless they don't care about sports, and then they're just pandering.
Ask the current president a single question about a sport and listen to his response and tell me you actually believe he knows what he's talking about. But here's my thing though, Paul. I don't care about the president. They can like whatever teams they want and they can talk about it. Where I found that things really like went down a path that was negative was when journalists started doing that.
Yes.
Because journalism was supposed to have a specific standard, and it all happened one day when Michael Wilbon tucked his Cubs jersey into his jeans and threw out a first pitch at a Cubs game. And then the next day on Pardon My Take, or Pardon the Interruption, he had his Cubs jersey on and talked about, it's like, wait a sec. That's when the curtain was like, whoa, you're supposed to be in the middle on everything. I'm coming to you for your unbiased opinion. But now every like anchor, or everybody that is a journalist, used to be a journalist, they're totally biased with everything. Adam Schefter is getting legitimately like information from teams to share like when they want him to share it and wording it how they want him to share it. He was supposed to be the guy. And I honestly think it's a huge reason, one of the reasons why Woj dropped out, because Woj saw the horizon and was like, this isn't, he saw Shams coming and he was just like, he's younger, he's got the energy for this. Like the direction this is heading is not my direction. And Woj jumped. But Schefter, I mean, come on, like so much that comes out about these guys is so embarrassing at this point. It's all being sold to, tailored to be sold to us.
And it hypothetically leads to a future where the worldwide leader in sports might have a bias towards one specific conference. Right?
I can also think of a particular insider reporter who came into super close contact with the coach of the Patriots and changed a few things along the way as well in a fallout that still hasn't completely been written. One final note about the role of government in sports, and then we're going to move on. There have been some unifying moments that have involved presidents and sports and the nation. Not a lot, because not everybody in the nation cares about sports, but there have been some. And we are about 2 months away from the 25th anniversary of one of those moments that, I mean, you did not have to like the man. But when George W. Bush took the mound in the World Series at Yankee Stadium just a few weeks after 9/11 and threw a perfect strike wearing a bulletproof vest, and that place, who, by the way, in case you're all wondering, in the in 2001, New York also didn't vote red. So it's not like the stadium was full of George Bush fans until this moment.
For tonight's ceremonial first pitch, and please welcome the President of the United States. Thank you, Mr. President.
Just as simple as could be, and a special unifying moment. And again, we could probably do 17 hours on what the rest of that meant, but there is on occasion the potential for unity and the involvement of elevated elected officials. And it doesn't happen, it happens very rarely. That was a pretty special moment. All right, having said that, man, we are running long, but this is good. Go ahead, David.
I was going to say, I just want to make a correction on something I said earlier. It's when I said dignity in the office, I meant perceived dignity in the office. I do want to be clear on that, because there are many that were perceived to be dignified people, but when you dig into their histories, they clearly weren't. So again, it's and it's the same thing with sports and everything else that I talk about. There was a perceived like righteousness to the way college football used to be. But then when the curtain got pulled back, it's like then we saw all the warts and the flaws. So I didn't mean to say that there was dignity. I just meant to say that there was a perception. And with George W. Bush, that's what brought it up, because there was a lot of people that don't think he was dignified or anything like that. But the office held a perceived dignity at the time, which is why you could cheer for him throwing that strike, whether or not you agreed with him. So I just wanted to clarify that.
And there's a certain amount of onion peeling layering that we as people choose not to do at times, because it can be disillusioning, right? I mean, amongst the three of us, there are layers to my story that I would rather not peel back on Church Pew Sports. And so it is, well, it's part of the human sinful condition. We all have some layers to us. And I appreciate, especially as I get older, the moments when, even though they're brief glimpses, when we can kind of just look past the flaws and sort of draw together in some special way. Sometimes that happens because our team does great and we know that they're not perfect and we still don't like the owner, but this is a cool moment. And in some cases, we see that tie into our political space with sports as well. Okay, let's go into a holy discontent, shall we?
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
David, lead us off in Holy Discontent.
Yeah, so my holy discontent is the Tigers bullpen.
Oh, dear.
It has been one of the most frustrating years to be a Tigers fan, because the potential was there. Everything was there. The team was moving. We got all the way back into position. We ended up selling because of whatever, blah, 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 blah. But the Tigers bullpen, in every situation outside of the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, is a top 5 bullpen in all of baseball. In the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, they are the worst. And categorically, they are one of the single worst bullpens in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning in history. It is unbelievable watching this team. Kenley Jansen the other day, he had gone since like June 1st without giving up a run. And you're like, wow, he must be pitching really well. Sure. But every run he had given up was a blown save. And then he goes into that game, 1-run lead, bottom of the 9th, gives up a home run to tie it, gives up a home run to lose it. And that was essentially right at that moment in Pittsburgh. That was season's over right there.
Yep.
We went on a little bit of a run. We had Pittsburgh and the Royals. We had 2 bad teams, and we blew that, and then we lost that series, and then we got swept by the Royals. It's like, it has been brutal. I kid you not. I wish I would have come more prepared with these bullpen stats, because they will boggle your mind. I will go look some up while you talk, and if I find any good ones, I'll come back to you.
It's 28 blown leads, right? Isn't it 28 blown leads?
Might be 29 now.
Oh, good.
Might be 29 now. But 28 or 29.
If they're even middle of the pack, the Tigers have a 10-game lead in the division.
Yeah. If you blow 18 out of 28 saves, you're 10 games up from where you are right now. You're what, 2 or 3 games over 500 right now if you just blow 18 saves.
18.
Which is more than league average. League average is around 15 or 16. So
okay, this may be I may be opening Pandora's box here, but why do you think that's been the case?
That's the hard part. My buddy's a huge baseball fan. He's a Mets fan, and so he has his own set of issues, and he complains about them all the time. But he checks in on the box scores, and he went and looked at all these. He said, I started to look through all the games that they blew saves. He goes, every time the pitch that was hit out was middle, just right over the heart of the plate. And there's no explanation for why they don't do that in the first inning through the 6th inning. There's none. I don't know if it's a sports psychology issue. I don't know. But those 2 Jansen home runs, like, the catcher's calling for it up. You throw that cutter a foot above the strike zone. It's an and both of them, one was on a 1-2 count, one was on an 0-2 count. Both of them were right down the pipe. That pitch should be nowhere near the strike zone. And they were like, one was an 8 hitter, and I think one was a 6. It's like, what are you doing? Like you're trying to ticky tack a strike on the front door, a cutter on a guy when you should just throw the thing a foot where Dingler's calling for it, a foot above the zone. It doesn't make any sense. It's like all of a sudden they'll do well for a whole inning, and it's just one pitch, and it's and it's just right down the pipe, no movement, and the guy just slugs it. And he pitched in college, he knows baseball. He's like, there's no explanation, and I'm like, yeah, if anyone could have one, you would have one. He's like, there's no reason for this. Doesn't make any sense.
I think, Bill, we have Kip Rogers on retainer as the resident sports psychologist for Church Pew Sports. Maybe she could jump back in the chat.
But these are all relievers who pitch in those situations their whole careers. It's not like it's a nuisance. It's not like he's a former starter and they're like, hey, go take the 8th inning with a guy in first and third and 2 outs. No, it's a guy who comes in that situation all the time. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Kenley Jansen's the 3rd most saves of all time. He knows not to throw that cutter in the middle part of the plate, and he did. There's no reasoning behind it.
There's nothing better than watching an 0-2 pitch sail out of the yard. That was
and I'm a little bit discontented by that. In fact, I'm wholly discontented by that.
It is a holy discontent for sure.
Paul, your turn.
I'm kind of afraid to share my holy discontent because I'm worried about my friend David's blood pressure. And I don't know if my holy discontent will help it or not, because my holy discontent this week is with Deshaun Watson, who didn't have a great preseason game the other day. And I just happened to catch his post-game interview comments, and I was just flabbergasted. So I don't know how much of the soundbite we have, but we just got to listen to this.
I think you guys know too, and I think the whole world knows. It has nothing to do about the performance. It's a little bit personal than that. So I think it's a disrespectful thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep whatever I feel with me and my family internally on how I feel about that. And yeah, just move on.
But don't you think, Deshaun, that winning and playing better would eliminate some of that booing?
Last time I played on this field, I tore my Achilles. And that same fan base, they cheered when I got hurt. So does that have to do with, what does that have to do with anything about performance?
He went on, by the way, to say later on, I regret nothing in my life. I regret nothing.
So here's the thing, Deshaun. If you listen to this episode, you'll realize that it has everything to do with your performance on the field, my friend. That's what the fans are booing. They're booing the fact that you signed this monster, fully guaranteed contract, and you have not lived up to expectations. That is why they're booing. Get over yourself.
And if you're not going to play well, maybe be a decent person.
Well, yeah, there's that too. Yeah.
Maybe not
fair.
Maybe not force your way on women that never mind.
Your lifestyle's not endearing yourself to anybody.
Yeah.
That is
and then he in another interview he called out he's calling out the fans and everything. It's like I'm sorry, I don't.
And then he was named the starter.
No, really?
Starter. Yes.
Okay.
By the coach who said in yesterday or today's press conference, I'm basing it solely on performance.
There you go.
It tells you what they think about Shador.
Sure. My holy discontent. I have an acquaintance who is among the most gifted communicators that I have ever met.
Thank you.
Absolutely full of passion, knowledge, can bring the heat, is hilarious, is eloquent, should have a full blast, big time career in media, in broadcasting, in particular in the sports genre. And yet, every time somebody close to him tries to open up a platform to let him cook, I mean cook, he's reluctant, doesn't want to do it. He's going to give it a hard time, going to hold out. Like he's holding out like a guy who's got a 16-year contract, but he's not happy with the money, as if 8 cents a month isn't enough. My holy discontent is David Collins, who in this performance today, 1 hour and 10 minutes of this podcast in, has given perhaps Paul Miller his best Church Pew Sports performance in the 215 episodes of this show. So David Collins, if you're out there somewhere, if you can hear me somewhere, if somebody can get word to him, you're too good at this to be reluctant to do it.
This is top 5 for you.
I was going to say, this is my best. This is my best since my last one. Next will be better.
Okay.
All right, it's time for that guy.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man.
He is the man. Paul, lead us off. And that guy.
Okay. So I'm wearing my Ohio State hat because I knew that guy was going to be about the Ohio State Buckeyes. But just like I didn't hang pass-fail grading just on the University of Michigan, I am sure there are all kinds of there are any number of other football programs that have this tradition, but Ohio State has this tradition where when a player is voted team captain, the position coach calls the parents, and together they tell the parents. So I just want you guys to hear the conversation between Larry Johnson, the defensive line coach, Kenyatta Jackson, who was voted captain, calling Kenyatta's mom to tell her that her son was going to be a team captain.
Hey, Mom, this is Coach Jay.
Hi, Coach Jay. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing? Oh, okay. All right.
What happened?
What happened? You know the scripture, Galatians 6:9, in due season, if you faint not, your blessing's going to come. You know that scripture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, your blessing just came. Your son just got named captain of the 2026 Ohio State football team.
Oh, congratulations, KJ!
Here's KJ. Here's KJ.
I'm so happy to hear this. Oh, thank you. Oh, congratulations, boy!
Thank you.
I think Mom's happy.
I'm sure there's all kinds of things that happen in all college football programs like that behind the scenes, which are just awesome, but they never make the headlines. I just thought that one was worth listening.
It's funny you say that, Paul, because that guy is also a parent-child moment in the world of sports. I've been sitting on this one since the NFL draft. I've had this soundbite queued up every time, and I've chosen something else. This is inside the Dallas Cowboys draft room, and scout Chris Vaughn is calling his son Deuce Vaughn. I don't know anything about either of them except that Dad drafted his son.
Hey, buddy. How's it going? Hey, it's going good. This is Dad. My phone wasn't working. Look at here, man. You want to come to work with me next week? I wouldn't mind that at all.
You want to come to work with me this week? I wouldn't mind that at all. So I just love that. That's that guy. Been
That's
sitting
awesome.
on it for a while. David Collins, you're that guy.
You guys are both heartfelt. I'm going to zig where you guys have zagged.
Again.
That guy is Lane Kiffin. All right. Here's why. Listen, hang on. Here's why.
All right.
Because every other coach and everyone else is trying to be all moral, and we hate college football in the direction it's going. We're not going to take these former pros that have. Lane Kiffin says, you know what? Everyone's going to do it eventually. Let's go, baby. And he brings all of them. He's got 2 guys that now have left NFL rosters that are coming in. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be one heck of a fun 8-4 season down in LSU, baby. It's going to be great.
That's
Where everybody's wearing jersey 5.
Yes, exactly. He goes ahead and say, wait, what did Brian Kelly say? Nah, forget that. Like, just do whatever we want. I love it. Lane Kiffin went ahead and looked at the landscape and said, you know what? Like, no one else wants him. I'll take him. Like, and everyone else is going to be morally outraged and say, Lane, can't believe you. And he's just going, it's the landscape. Like, it's allowed. What am I supposed to do? Not try to win? Come on, man. I love it. Lane Kiffin is an endless source of hilarity.
Awesome.
If I had 5 more minutes before we started recording, I was going to pull today's Lane Kiffin soundbite where he was asked specifically at his press conference, how do you feel about NFL players heading back to college? And he gave this big pause, and then he said, you really have to weigh these things on a case-by-case basis. But for the most part, I'm against it.
Yeah, for the most
That's
part,
awesome.
unless they want to play for us, then I'm okay.
Absolutely.
I was listening to the Northern Aggression podcast today, which I would recommend to you guys because all they do is talk about football north of the Mason-Dixon line, and so they talk Big Ten all the time, and they rag on the SEC. They were talking about must-watch football games this year in college football, and top 3 for one of the guys was when LSU goes to Ole Miss.
Right.
That's a game. That's an SEC game that we're all going to want to watch this year.
Yeah. Night game.
Speaking of pros playing in college, Trinidad Chambliss is going to be there, and he's like 48. So, like, what's the difference? Come on, guys. If it's an extra year of eligibility, or it's leaving a practice or leaving a team to get waived and go play college again, who cares? Like, Lane Kiffin looked at it and said, "Hey, bring it on." Just going to make it all hilarious when it somehow blows up in his face. I can't wait for it.
Case by case basis, David, and these are unique individual cases. Here we go with the 3-minute message.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26, the foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay. This has been a really fun conversation. And we've talked about a lot of guys, some absurd stuff like Enes Kanter and some of the other things, some heartfelt stuff, some just really confusing and weird stuff. And there's one theme that's kind of weaving its way through, threading its way through the entire conversation for me. And that is the dangers of what happens when you assume, when me, any one of us as a Jesus follower assumes that because somebody is prominent or successful or skilled in one arena of life, that we assume other things about them. So this is the whole idea of because a guy is a good football player, or because he's a successful actor, or because he's a powerful politician or whatever, that we assume that we should listen to things that they had to say about that are of moral consequence to us, right? That, like, you know, I when I'm voting for president, I'm never voting for someone to be my spiritual mentor. I'm voting for someone that I think is going to be a good president. But it's really easy to conflate those things. And I think it's really dangerous for us as Jesus followers. And the verse that came to mind for me was Colossians 2:8. See to it that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world, and not according to Christ. So the bottom line here is that we don't answer to our government. We don't answer to Hollywood. We don't answer to our favorite pro football team or the players or the owners of that team. We answer to a higher authority, and let's not ever forget that. And let's make sure that we keep those public figures that we follow or listen to in some arenas. Let's make sure that we keep those people in their right position in our lives. I'm going to respect your ability as a football player, but I'm not going to ask you to tell me what kind of dad I should be necessarily, right? Let's make sure that we go back to Jesus, his example, to God's word, to our brothers in faith. I think I'm looking at two of them right now on this podcast, folks from our church who are involved in our lives and are keeping us accountable. See to it that no one else takes you captive by their philosophies or empty deceit, according to human tradition, according to the elemental spirits of the world. Base everything on Jesus. He's the right answer. He's the guy to follow.
Well said. Good stuff. That was fun, gentlemen. And time flies when you're having fun. A long episode, but a really good one. David, thanks for doing it. And stop being such a pain in the rear. You can do it every time, and you're really good at it.
I'm still not sure if I'm going to be here for this one.
I know. Well, we hope you make it.
Debating.
We'll see you all later. Thanks for joining us on Church Pew Sports. Make sure you find us online, churchpewsports.com, on Facebook and X as well. And we will look forward to connecting with you all next time. See you later.